Welcome to On the Corner of Main Street, presented by Plaza Hotel and Casino in downtown Las Vegas. Here is Plaza CEO Jonathan Jossel, Gary Vickery, and I'm your host, Lisa Melmed. Welcome back to On the Corner of Main Street. Hello, Jonathan. How are you?
Amazing, Lisa. Good to be here.
Good to be here. We're in Oscars. It's hustling and bustling, getting ready to open.
Yep, and we're back doing the podcast, getting some consistency. Fun.
We had another amazing dinner series.
Yeah, I mean, we could, actually, I think we talked about doing this, Rich, didn't we? Whereby we're going to have like episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the podcast, and then episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the dinner series. Kind of like as we're almost as big as the Joe Rogan podcast, like how he has like his normal guests, and then he has his UFC guests sort of thing. It's like different named
an Oscar
episodes.
Section is what you little boutique section of the podcast.
Right,
all right,
exactly. Yeah.
Glad it reminded me.
It's like this is Oscar's dinner series, whatever, 10, because these things people love, and this isn't really. We're not doing this. This isn't our job.
They're timeless.
This is on Oscar. This is a moment in history. The mayor always makes sure that I'm recording these talks because she wants them one day, and it's just stories that will never be replicated. And great credit to him, as you're going to hear in the next 40 minutes. These are new stories that I had never heard.
Yeah.
Sometimes he regurgitates some of the stories and they cross over, but this was legit. This was all new stuff that I had never heard before. So
a theme I never thought I would hear from him.
What's that?
There's nothing like a dame.
Yes, and it was very special for me because my mother flew in for it. Well, not for that, but she was here and she came to our first dinner series. It was a great crowd. We had a lot of good people. We had a gaming commissioner at the dinner series, which usually he's attacking the gaming commission. But we had a gaming commissioner there who I do want to get them on the podcast, but I don't think they're allowed to do it. Is the general? I try to get the chairman, Bryn Gibson, but we'll see. Maybe one day.
There is so much construction happening in this town.
Yes.
Starting here at the plaza, the carousel is coming along.
It is. So a couple of updates on that. We're not going to be ready for New Year's Eve. We're looking at early March, which is probably a better thing anyway, just weather-wise, to do a grand opening for the whole kit and caboodle in March.
Yeah.
But we did have the concrete pour a couple of weeks ago. We are now seeing the construction wall going up for the new casino and the patio of Oscar's.
The new space.
The expanded casino floor. And very cool, I have a new idea, which is going to be an expanded version of the expanded casino.
What is it?
Which I'm not yet ready to say, but I'll tease it here. We're going to tie in the whole food court experience, which is no longer going to be what it looks like today, into the new casino. It's going to be wonderful. So we got that going on. And then I did go to the warehouse where they're actually building, I don't know if you know this, they're building the carousel offsite.
Offsite.
So I went to see the carousel, and there's a carousel.
Really?
There's nothing. There's the bones of a carousel.
Okay.
The horses are arriving.
The horses?
Yeah, the horses are arriving that are going to be on the carousel. The other elements are being
Did you see
built.
The horses?
No, they're arriving. They haven't arrived yet.
Okay.
I don't know where they are. The carousel progress is slower than we would have liked, but moving along, and there's definitely signs of life. Maybe by the time we air this, we can do some updated photos of out there. They'll probably be available. It should be pretty cool.
Very cool. And then we went on an amazing tour of the Fontainebleau. Got to see some behind the scenes, which it looks like it's going to be a huge, incredible hotel.
Yeah, and it's cool that they're building a team. You knew some of the people on the team there.
Yes.
Your friends.
Yep.
We had Cliff, who was on the podcast, take us on a tour, but we stopped by, saw their new director of HR, facilities. So they're building a team of people that are obviously very experienced, very good. And we toured the entrance, we toured the casino floor. It's impressive, and I obviously wish them nothing but luck. I think for the north side of the casino, north side of the strip, that's a huge undertaking to get people down there. If they were open during the When We Were Young festival, they would have been busy. But the idea that they're going to, from what we gather, they're going to take on Cosmopolitan and win. They're going to go to the ultra high end, and they're going to compete at the high end. And they certainly, in the Fontainebleau brand, have the right branding for that from Miami. They have all the great F&B operators from there. So they're very proud of the fact that it sits on a much smaller plot of land than Resorts World. Yeah. And they're very proud of the fact that when you're standing in the middle of the casino, you can see from one end to the other. Yeah. And he mentions that in all of his sort of things, which is very different to Resorts World. So I think they're trying to learn from that. Also, what was interesting to me is you always think of Fontainebleau and its location, but when you walk out the doors, where Lisa and I were, you are literally standing on the doorsteps of the convention
Literally.
center.
Yeah.
Like, it couldn't be closer. So it's got a great location with the convention center there. It's got a little bit of land between it and the Sahara, but that north end of the strip could come to life if a few more things fall into place over there.
I always think about whoever got wrangled into buying that like third or fourth floor spot in the Turnberry Tower way back when they had a little view, and then they've had a view of nothing for a decade. Now they'll have a view of nothing, but at least there's something behind the nothing.
And they got a view. You're right. They got totally screwed on the view. My pickleball courts at Sterling Club that I play on are blocked by that garage as well, so I'm very upset by that. But it's quite nice because it blocks the sun earlier in the day, so we're not complaining. But it is a full circle story in the sense of it was built by Jeff Sofa. He lost it to Carl Icahn, who sold it, and then another group had it, then they lost it, and now it's back in the hands of Jeff Sofa, and it looks like it's going to happen this time. They got a real team, a real investment, a real vision, and it's slated for next December, and I give them great kudos for going full steam ahead.
Awesome.
And they want to get ready for F1, which I think they should, because from everything I see, F1 is just angling to be the biggest weekend in the history of Las Vegas.
Wow.
As a longtime fan of going to the Fontainebleau in Miami Beach and all its great history over the years when we lived in D.C., I'm really looking forward to this, more so than Resorts World, more so than a couple of other places.
I would agree with that sentiment, and I think they've got one big strategic advantage over Resorts World in that, well, one, they have the singular brand. They're not doing the multiple hotel brands, but more than they have an existing brand with existing branded restaurants coming in that people will identify with instantly.
Exciting. Back to the Plaza. You said that Carousel Bar is going to open in March, but do we have a projected date for Oscar's patio?
The patio, the donuts, and the casino we are working on. The question really comes down to, do we want to do a grand opening separately for all the different things, or do we want to tie it all together? I think they're going to be ready long before that. They might even be ready just after New Year's, but the patio being the winter, do we want to open it then? Do we want to wait? There is a nice sort of enclosed area of the patio which we could do, so stay tuned to the podcast for further updates, and we will be sure to do that. We are there is some new menu items at Oscar's. The smoked salmon carpaccio is world class, and I highly recommend it. I'll be having that shortly in one of my meetings, and so we'll have to update the group, the podcast, and everyone else on the exact opening dates of the casino.
Sounds good. There's also the short rib.
The short, and on the casino, we just ordered 100 new slot machines
for the
new expanded casino.
Wow!
Yeah,
exciting.
It's
all happening. All right, very cool. Well, let's hear what Oscar has to say.
I am going to ask anybody who does not have a collared shirt on, whether they are with the Gaming Commission or not, to leave. It's really outrageous. I work on this damn speech, and I get dressed for it, and I walk around in the sun, so I'll look halfway decent, and then you come here and you look like a bum. This is unbelievable. I say to his wife, I said, God, this is ridiculous. I mean, here's a guy, he's a professional man, you never know her from the way he looks, and she said, well, I think he's cute. The one thing you're not, David, is cute, okay? The next thing, and these are, as they say, housekeeping things to get him out of the way. Jonathan Jostle is getting a divorce. Why? Because he introduced my wife, my daughter, his mother, and forgot his wife. That's outrageous. So Emily is here, beautiful Emily is here, and we're getting off on the right foot here. This is called There's Nothing Like a Dame. Now, has anybody ever seen the South Pacific, either the play or the musical or the movie? Well, that was a big song on it. There's nothing like a dame. And I thought that would be an interesting topic because I don't get along with a lot of people, and I really don't get along with women. And my daughter says, do not start with your misogyny tonight. And I thought that was something that Robert Kraft did in a place down in Florida where they have masseuses. but I guess that's a different thing. That's not the same thing. So I thought it'd be a good idea to talk about women, the women in my life. We'll do that very, very quickly because they are the love of my life. I love the women in my life. I love my grandmother. My grandmother was a special woman. She came over from the old country, like so many of our relatives did, and didn't speak a word of English. And she used to take me to elementary school and sit in the back of the room and listen to the teacher speak English, and that's how she learned the language. And I think maybe if we did more of that today, it would be a good idea to get people assimilated into our community. So that's for Grandmom. Grandmom is watching very carefully. And then, of course, we have my beautiful wife, Carolyn. She's a special lady. She's put up with my nonsense for 60 years now. Yeah, really amazing. And has been the most supportive of wives imaginable. Has never kicked me out for too long. And always has had dinner waiting for me, sometimes cold, but always was there in order to make sure that I was comfortable, and always was very careful to associate with my clients as long as they were acting like gentlemen and ladies. And she was part of the old Las Vegas that used to drive around the Rosenthal children and would talk to Nancy Spilotro and would know Jerry Rosenthal. And she was tremendously helpful to me in building up my practice. She really was and is very, very special to my life. And then, of course, I have my daughter, Cara. Cara is very special as well. She had an incident, and I'm trying to relate this to the topic that I always do about the mob in Las Vegas in the old days. Cara was having her bat mitzvah. And for those who don't know what that is, when a girl becomes 13 years of age in the Jewish religion, they go through a ceremony, and her three brothers who were older, they, for their bar mitzvah, went over to Israel, and they did their bar mitzvah at the Western Wall. And of course, I offered the same thing to Cara, and she said, "That'd be terrific, Dad." I said, "You have a choice. You could go over there, or you could have a party here." And she said, "No, I'd love to go over there." And I told her, "Well, and Ogani, you better listen to this, because this shows you what you do for a living." She says, "Well, I'd love to do it in Israel, but isn't Mr. Spilotro in the Black Book?" And I said, "He is." "And isn't Mr. Cusimano in the Black Book?" And I said, "He is." She said, "Well, I can't have my bat mitzvah without him. I mean, the Black Book. Does everyone know what the Black Book is? It's the most unconstitutional piece of garbage that has ever been utilized by gaming authorities any place in the world. It has no nexus whatsoever with cheating at gambling. I could see that. You catch a cheater, you put him in the book, you don't let him come in to a casino. But to put somebody in the book because you don't like the fact that his last name ends in a vowel, to me, that's un-American, and it brands somebody as an outlaw. So now that I have the boss here, take that message back and tell them that let them be a little advanced. Let them come into the 21st century and let them start doing things that are constitutional, not unconstitutional. Instead of expanding it, tell them that they should really look at what they've done. They made a mistake the first time. They made people not be able to live in Las Vegas, not be able to work here. They let people who were murderers, who were robbers, work in the industry, and yet somebody whose last name they didn't like in a dime store novel, they barred him. So my daughter, and I'm so proud of her, she said, "Well, I'm not going to go to Israel, Dad. I want to have those people, because they've been so good to me, to my bat mitzvah." And we did it up at Mount Charleston. And it was one of the great bat mitzvahs of all time. Right, Cara? Good. All right, now I want to tell you, we have been through a couple of judgeships with the United States Supreme Court in the recent memory. We had Kavanaugh. We had the most recent judge, the young lady who was just appointed for a lifetime appointment. Excuse me? Yeah. Well, everybody knows her name. Oh, hey, Joe. Oh, go back to the track, will you, Joe? I have this nice lady on the Supreme Court, and I had a case where one of the 5 finalists, according to 2 presidents, nominated this woman to be on their short list. Her name was Sylvia Bacon, and she was a Superior Court judge in the District of Columbia. And she had a great reputation that she was fair, that she was honest. And I was representing a woman by the name of Santee Kimes. Santee and her husband, Kenneth Kimes, came into my office many, many years ago, and they were both charged, believe it or not, with slavery here in Las Vegas. You say, well, what kind of slavery? What they would do is they would take immigrants off the street, bring them into their home, and tell them if they wouldn't clean the house, cook for them, and they wanted to leave, then they would report them to the immigration authorities, and they would be sent back from where they came. And these women were scared to death. One of them escaped, and she filed charges, and I represented the husband on that case, and we got him probation. And Santee, she went to trial, but she liked me better than her then lawyer. And she said, you know, I have a problem. I was back in Washington, D.C., and I was at the Mayflower Hotel. And I went into the place, the coat room there, and I made a mistake, she said. I took somebody's coat that wasn't mine and left my coat there. The only thing was that I took the coat that I didn't belong to me, and I cut a hole in it so I could put my name in the part where the hole was. And they arrested me for stealing the coat. So I said, well, that shouldn't be too hard. And the woman that we got as a judge was Sylvia Bacon. And we're in Sylvia Bacon's courtroom. And Sylvia Bacon was looking to knock Santee Kimes over the head. Santee Kimes had come in with a reputation of being involved in 121 felonies. She was ultimately convicted of 3 murders, one a Las Vegas gentleman, and one woman from Los Angeles, and a third, they weren't able to find the woman, so they didn't charge her with that. She had 121 different cases, and we're defending her. I'm defending her on the stolen coat case, which seems to be rather minor in the scheme of things, but nevertheless, Santee was a very bright woman. They called her a grifter. She got everybody who even came close to her into trouble. She was scamming people. She was defrauding people. She got her son into the business with her. And she said, Mr. Goodman, look at the judge. I looked up and I saw Sylvia Bacon, this judge who was on 2 shortlists for the United States Supreme Court. And I said, what do you want, Santee? And she said, look at the way she's holding her head. I said, what do you mean? She's holding her head like any other human being holds her head when they're sitting up there on the bench. Mr. Goodman, this woman is mentally ill. I said, look, you're like all my clients. Everybody has to throw in their 2 cents, tell me what to look at, tell me what to do. She says, I want you to file a motion to disqualify this judge. Well, that doesn't come easy because the word goes throughout the judicial community that when you move to disqualify a judge, win, lose, or draw, the word goes out that this guy's a troublemaker. So you've got to be pretty careful as to who you're going to disqualify. And I said, I don't think we have enough. Well, at that time, the judge banged her head on the table. She said, did you see that? I said, I saw that, but there may be an explanation for that. I'm not sure I know what it is, but nevertheless, I feel hesitant to file a motion to disqualify this judge. And then she called me Mr. Morrow. I said, no, Goodman is my name. Okay, Mr. Morrow, what's your client's name? And she asked the question 3 times. So I said, you may have something here. She says, this woman is mentally ill. So I filed a motion. And the chief judge of the D.C. court ordered her off the bench. They examined her. They said she was loony as a bedbug. And she never tried another case after that. So that's what we almost had a Supreme Court judge under 2 presidents It's remarkable. But there are honest people, Ghana, who are critical of the system and make sure that this nonsense doesn't take place. And that's what I did my whole adult life. So, I'm representing Natalie Rikicki here. Does everybody know who Big Chris was? Nobody knows who he was. Well, you should, because Big Chris, you know who it was? Big Chris was a consigliere for John. Who knows who he is? Who is that? Where are you from? You don't know who Big Chris is. You wouldn't be here if you knew who Big Chris was. Big Chris wouldn't even like you. He wouldn't let you in here. Big Chris was the consigliere, according to the government, of John Gotti. And they had pictures of him with Gotti, always whispering. It was always whispering. And Big Chris was indicted out of West Palm Beach, Florida. And we went for a bail motion, and I was able to get him released to his home, which was on the Las Vegas golf course. It would have been better off if I let him stay in the Clark County Jail because his wife, Joan, was an incessant smoker, and she was trying to kill him with the smoke. And he said, why did you have to get me out on bail? It would have been much better if I stayed in the jail. They don't allow smoking there. I said, Chris, I did what I thought was best for you. And he went home, and he was complaining. That's the only thing that I did wrong. He should have been allowed to stay in jail. Well, there was a prosecutor here, and this is where we get, there is nothing like a dame, by the name of Jane Shoemaker. Now, if you know Jane Shoemaker, buddy, let me know. Jane Shoemaker was, in my opinion, and I would never say anything behind somebody's back if I wouldn't say it in front of them, was the worst. She, you know, there's nothing worse than an ugly woman, at least in my opinion. There's nothing worse than a dishonest woman. And Jane Shoemaker had me served with what's called a subpoena ducis tecum, which means they want me to appear in front of a United States grand jury, federal grand jury, and bring with me evidence of payments that you received on behalf of Natalie Rikicki. Well, I know that the payment of fees between an attorney and client is not part and covered by the attorney-client privilege. I know that. But I felt that in order, because everybody said he was Gotti's consigliere, that by turning over this material, I would somehow be making a case for the government that they weren't entitled to, which tied Gotti in, if Gotti had anything to do with it, with Rikicki. And I appeared in front of the grand jury very respectfully, and I said I refused to answer on the ground. It was the only privilege that was around at the time, that it would violate the Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination. And I'm also going to throw this in, even though I know it's never been tried before, that it will interfere with the attorney-client relationship. There's never been a case, to my knowledge, that talk about the relationship which would be damaged if, in fact, I gave up information like that, which could hurt Chris's relationship with anybody in the community. She took me in front of Phil Pro, who was the United States District Court here. And Phil Pro's claim to fame is he would speak like this, with a loud voice. Other than that, I don't think he distinguished himself. And those who appeared in front of him would back me up on this. And I appeared in front of him, and he said, Mr. Goodman, I understand you appeared in front of the grand jury and you refused to turn over or answer any material about the fee payment and refused to testify. I said, well, that's not really accurate. Nobody asked me any questions. They just said, turn over this stuff, and I refused to do it. He said, well, turns to the government, to this Jane Shoemaker. Oh, I wish she were here tonight. And says, Ms. Shoemaker, what would you like? Now, listen to this. Here, we're practicing over in federal court. She's practicing there. We pass each other in the courthouse, try cases together. She says, I want Mr. Goodman incarcerated. That means put in jail. Forthwith. I said, forthwith? Did I hear this right? Forthwith? I said, Judge, she wants me put in jail forthwith? I said, the least I can do, go up to the Ninth Circuit and appeal it. He says, you know, Mr. Goodman, that it's been decided time and time again that you're wrong, there's no privilege there. I said, but forthwith, let me at least take it up. He says, okay, you take it up the moment they deny you, bring your toothbrush because you're going to jail. Well, of course, they denied it, and they set up a hearing to decide what to do in sending me to jail. Well, I don't know why Shoemaker had the idea that jail didn't scare me. A jail scares people. Yeah, jail is not nice. A jail is not the kind of place a guy like me could have a good time. I don't know of any jails that would be able to serve me enough Bombay Sapphire. I mean, I would always get a little bit because if I don't have my Bombay Sapphire, my wife will tell you this because she's heard it from medical authorities. If I don't have my Bombay Sapphire every single day, I die. And my brain, which is the biggest brain as far as the brain cells are concerned that I know of, would begin to shrivel. So it was very important that I have a place where I'd be able to get this kind of treatment. And the Bar Association heard about this because they thought that the judge was going to send me to jail, and they didn't want to see Oscar die. So they all came down to the federal courthouse, and they had bullhorns, and the entire defense bar made up shirts. I found one today, which I'm happy to show it to you. It's this is a shirt that is a good shirt. They were all wearing the shirt. Sam, could you hold this shirt up? The shirt says, "Pro, let the O go." and everybody wore the shirt. Thank you. And Miss Shoemaker, what, is it time to stop? I don't need your help. I don't need your son's help. You don't need his help either, believe me. You're doing fine without him. So they all have their shirts on. My family came in. Kara, remember you came down there? All my sons came down with Kara. Carolyn was there. They expected me to go away. And the judge set the date, and I get a phone call from North Las Vegas. That's where the federal holding facility was, where I would go to do my contempt, because when you were held in contempt, that kind of contempt, the judge always says, now you have the key, and you could open the gate, and you could let yourself out, but the key is with you. So when you have the key, then you'll be let out of the jail. So I knew the jailer who called me, and he said, Oscar, come down and see me. So I went down to North Las Vegas, and I'm not a bad fella. And the jailer said, here's your cell. I said, I haven't even been asked to be placed in the cell yet. He says, this is your cell, and we want to let you know we're going to bring a little TV in for you. We're going to be ordering from McDonald's across the street. You won't have much of a choice, but as long as you come and you pay the money for the food and buy food for the rest of the jailers, you'll be able to eat that way, and we will not close the door, so you won't have any claustrophobic type reaction to being in jail. But notwithstanding all of that, when I went to court, I don't know whether you've ever tasted your bile. It's probably, the bile may be the most vile part of one's body as far as taste is concerned. Well, my bile went from here. If you ever had a hiatal hernia, you get a little taste of your bile, even if you're not sent to jail. The bile went from here into my throat, and I wouldn't let them know that I was a little fearful. But the prosecutor, this brilliant Jane Shoemaker, says, jail doesn't scare Mr. Goodman. Little did she know that the bile was acting up while she was making that statement. She says the only thing that would affect Mr. Goodman is his pocketbook. The only thing he cares about is the money he makes. And I want him fined. Well, the judge says, well, this isn't a proceeding where we fine him. Well, I want him to pay. They didn't even have a name for what they were doing to me. Pay until he gives us the information that we asked for. So the judge said, all right, you are ordered to jail. We'll place you in North Las Vegas. No, he says, I won't order you to jail. I'm going to, whatever they call it, it's not a fine, but whatever it is, I'm going to impose it upon you, $25,000 for the first day and $2,500 a day thereafter until you tell us what your arrangement was and what the finances were with the person who put up the money for your client, Mr. Rikicki. So I said, fine. I said, where do I leave the money? And he said, go to the clerk's office. Excuse me, excuse me? I don't know. They maybe don't care that I was going to go to jail. I don't care. If you're that insensitive, you shouldn't even be here, okay? There's a restroom out there you could sit in. So I was a little concerned and paid $25,000 to the clerk's office. She said, Mr. Goodman, we don't know how to account for this. There's nothing on our sheet that has anything like this because it's never been done before. So I said, put it under miscellaneous. So she puts it under miscellaneous, and then the weekend came, and the courthouse is closed. I called the judge. I said, Your Honor, what do I do over the weekend? He says, we'll trust you until Monday. Just make up the difference. So I went, and on Monday I put up Saturday and Sunday and Monday $7,500, and the money was mounting. But I was trying to teach a lesson that a defense attorney who represented the kind of people that I represented, at least from the far as the government's position was concerned, have to know that they're in for a fight, and that I'm not going to give in to their picadillos. And if they are going to get me one way or the other, they're going to have to fight a little harder than they fought. And I had to go down to Dana Point, which is outside of Los Angeles in Orange County. And I went down there representing Jack Gordon. Jack Gordon, you may remember, was married to LaToya Jackson. Does anybody remember that? Absolutely. You do? Okay, well, this wasn't the case where he took a chair and hit her over the head. This was independent of poor LaToya. But I went down there for Jack, and I always, when I went to a hotel, I always went into the bar. I guess you had a hard time figuring that one out before I went up to the room. And a guy by the name of Frank Marine, I still remember this. My brain is very good. This is a long time ago. He says, Oscar, there was a conference of strike force attorneys from all over the country meeting down there. He says, we finally got you. I said, what did you get me? He says, we're going to take you to the grand jury and we're going to indict you under criminal contempt. Now, that's a lot different than what I was looking at, because not only are you looking about doing serious prison time, but I would lose my law license. So I went back and I spoke to Big Chris, and I said, Chris, I think we are at a crossroads here. He says, well, turn it over to him. So I said, as long as you're happy, I mean, I'll go to jail. I could care less. I needed a rest anyhow, and I have no problem. So he says, no, turn it over, Oscar. He was a good guy. Chris was a good guy. And I told Shoemaker that I was ready to come and appear in front of the grand jury, and I came in with the receipt. Now, I know how the government was treating me. Whatever monies I got, they would always be sticking their nose into my business. So I never received any money in my office. I had one of the office staff get it, and when they got the receipt and gave it to the client or whoever was paying it, they would put down anonymous, and then the amount of money which I received, so I wouldn't have any problems with the grand jury, but at the same time I wouldn't be hurting a client or some other human being. And Shoemaker starts screaming and yelling, this isn't what we wanted, we didn't. I said, you got what you asked for. I said, let's go and talk to Judge Pro. So we went into court. I told him what happened. She says, we want him to give us the amount of money and who gave it to him. We just don't want a receipt saying anonymous on it. And Pro, to his credit, where did my Pro shirt? Oh, here it is. To his credit, said, you bothered Goodman enough. This matter is dismissed. and I went on my merry way, and the word went out that Goodman really was a man's. I'm scared to say that in this day and age. You're not allowed to say a man's man. No, you're not allowed to. Goodman was of some gender. He was a gender of a gender, and that was the end of that case. Now, how am I doing time-wise, Johnny? Good. I have more stories. Yes. Okay, we'll tell the story. We can tell a story about. This is one of my favorite stories. I'm representing Philip Leonetti. Anybody from the Philadelphia area? Okay. Anybody ever heard? Yes. Did you ever hear Little Nicky Scarfo? No, you didn't? You're deaf. Little Nicky Scarfo was in charge of the Philadelphia mob, and Little Nicky Scarfo was a tough guy. He was a real tough guy, and I was representing Philip Leonetti. Did you know Philip? Philip, they used to call him Crazy Phil. I have no reason to disagree with that statement. Philip and the Scarfo group had to kill Salvador Testa, who was a fellow who broke an engagement with one of the mob's daughters, which is, you can't do that in Philadelphia, and said that Nicky Scarfo's concrete business in Atlantic City wasn't the best concrete business. So I sort of agreed that those were valid reasons to engage in that kind of activity, and they tried 13 different ways to kill Salvi Testa, whose father was Chicken Man Testa. No one could figure out why they called him Chicken Man. He didn't look like a chicken. Maybe he went to Piero's to have kosher chicken, which was made by Freddie Glassman. Kosher chicken. You go in there, you can't even have a meal without him sitting down with you and talking about kosher chicken. That's why everybody should come to Oscars, because no one bothers you here. You sit down, you could spoon, you could do whatever people do when they go to a beautiful restaurant like this and have a great meal. So forget about Piero's. Don't even think about it. So I'm representing Philip and the Philadelphia gang, and we are in court on the murder case. And it was a tough murder case, it really was. They tried 13 ways to kill this guy. And we were staying at the Four Seasons Hotel, and I said, when we win this murder case loud enough for Barbara Christie, who was the prosecuting attorney, to hear it, I said, when we win this murder case, I am going to take off my clothes, and I am going to swim nude in the fountains in front of the Four Seasons on the Parkway in Philadelphia. Well, that drove her crazy. I almost think that she wanted to lose the case in order to see that sight. It's something like Bob Veers, who said that he would run naked through the streets of Las Vegas if the mob museum was successful. And I think I would be a better thing to look at than Veers naked, but that could be judged at some other time. And we're in court, and I said, when it was getting a little heated, I said, so that Barbara Christie, who was like a little Bantam rooster. Now, I guess that breaks the law, too. I guess a Bantam rooster is a male rooster, right? Yes. And a female rooster is called a hen? Well, she's a little Bantam hen rooster? What is she? I don't know what she is, but I said, and the jury overheard me. I said, go back to the kitchen, will you? Well, the jurors looked at me like I had stuck a knife in their favorite person's belly, and they hated me. And then this genius said, well, Mr. Goodman, I don't even cook. So with that, they came back to my side, and everything was evened out. And we won the case, and I went back to the Four Seasons. We had a wonderful party. We had Louis XIV brandy. We had Cristal, which was the drink of choice. And we had Philadelphia hoagies. You know what a hoagie is, right? Okay. And it was a great meal. Everybody was having a good time. And I came down in my bathrobe. And a Philadelphia policeman came up to me and he says, you're not going in the fountains. I said, I sure am. He said it. He said, you go in the fountains, we're going to arrest you. Well, I didn't know any of the jailers in Philadelphia. And I thought that maybe I was using too much of my luck. And I said, all right, if that's what you say, officer, I won't. But how about if I have a bathing suit on? He said, go up back to your room. I said, can I go to my party? Well, I went to my party, and at the end of the party, the Four Seasons came with a bill of $24,000, and my client's other son said, we don't have it. I said, you don't have it? Who has it? Nobody had the $24,000 to pay for the party. So I said, wait a second, this is the way it's supposed to be. They said, we treated you pretty good, Mr. Goodman. I said, that you have. He says, can we give you our Rolls Royce in payment for the party? I said, what year is it? It was a nice Rolls Royce. The only thing in it, there were bullet holes in it. And I did not know whether the Kelley Blue Book would detract that or not if I wanted to sell it. And there were wires in it that shouldn't be in it. And I said, okay, I'll take it. And that's another story for another time. I fought to get my Rolls Royce. That cost me $100,000 to get the Rolls Royce back. I finally got it back. And the reason I hate the government is what they did to my Rolls Royce. They put this is a sad story. They put my Rolls Royce on an outdoor parking lot in Camden, New Jersey. Now, it's bad enough if it was an indoor parking lot in Camden, but outdoor is outrageous because Camden is like the armpit of the world. And here's my poor Rolls Royce sitting out there rusting away. And then I finally pick it up, and nothing works in it. And I had it sent out to California to make it into mint condition. And as soon as I sent it there, the guy who was going to put it in mint condition, he gets arrested for illegal drug trafficking down there, and they seize my Rolls Royce. So I said, it's a bad luck Rolls Royce, and that was the end of that. Okay, I think that's it. We got a lot more stories. We have a lot of things we're going to be doing. Not tonight, though, because I'm starved. And Johnny, why don't you ask whether anybody has any questions they want to ask? Anything you want to ask. I'll answer anything you want to ask. I'm not scared of anything you might ask me. Really.
But before that.
Before that? Okay.
So we're going to do a Q&A. If you have any question on any subject for Oscar, put your hand up. But before that, I want to compliment Oscar's team, Ryan, Yvonne, Chef Ben, and the whole team for putting this on. It's not easy to do this. You guys do a great job. And thank you to our regulars, Joe Asher, Sam Cherry. You guys are the best. Thank you for always supporting our events. We appreciate you guys. And with that, are there any questions on any subject? I saw one over here. The question is, as an aspiring politician, does Oscar have any advice? This is going to be great.
And what's the gentleman's name? Hey, oh, Tony, good. Yes, I'm glad you asked that question. You asked it just the way I wanted you to ask it, too. So that was perfect. Yes, change your last name to Goodman. The truth, I always said, because usually when I go to schools and they're not asking me what I would want if I was on an island in the middle of the ocean, what's the one thing I would want? And to fourth grade classes, I say a bottle of gin, and everybody got all upset. But I think that the main thing is you take the same thing from what you're doing before you run. Hopefully you made a little bit of money, so money has no place as far as the decision is concerned, and you're comfortable that way. You won't be tempted, because it's very tempting for a young person who doesn't have any money to deal with people who need a property type ruling in their behalf. And the same way you would look at your customer, or as I did, a jury, right in the eye, tell them the truth. That's all they want. The truth of the matter is, once you shake somebody's hand and you look them in the eye, they vote for you every single time. I didn't waste my money with pollsters. I went to Costco. And if people would shake my hand at Costco and say, you're doing a good job, I knew I was going to win. That's the way it works.
We got another question over there. The question is, have you had a case that you absolutely regret trying?
Any case that I lost. You know, it's interesting because I feel a little silly every week or every 6 weeks when we give this talk of talking about the wins. Believe me, when you're a criminal defense lawyer, I love these lawyers who say they never lost a case. They never tried a case. It's that simple. You do the best you can, and you don't win every case. You don't. But if you do your client what the client wants you to do, and my clients did what I wanted them to do, and it let me make sure that the government or the state or the prosecution proved its case beyond a reasonable doubt without prosecutorial misconduct and did not violate the Constitution. I never had a client complain, believe it or not, ever. And they got some serious time, but if they knew that the system was being tested and the system worked, even though they were found guilty, but if there was misconduct on the part of the prosecution and we were able to show that to a jury and they decided that they're going to find the client guilty, notwithstanding that, never a complaint, ever. And I'm talking about from some big shots. Although I have I'm writing another book. It's called In Las Vegas, There Are No Big Shots. So look around, and if you see somebody who thinks they're a big shot, say you're not a big shot.
Beautiful. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you next time. November 30th is the next dinner series.
We'll be back again soon, but in the meantime, please rate, review, and subscribe. Tell your friends about On the Corner of Main Street, and of course, follow us on social. On Twitter and Instagram, it's @PlazaPod, and on Facebook, find us at Plaza Podcast. Or go right to the top and tweet Jonathan @JonathanJossel. We'll see you next time from right here on the corner of Main Street.